Hello, welcome. What an episode. Man, it's. I think maybe a lot of people are going to be like, what a boring episode or something." But I don't know. It's just there. I was digging it. I think this is a really great episode. The direction of this episode was just fantastic. I mean, that Alicent scene at her at the small council, and just like. Um, Jace at the twins, just beautiful scenes. I mean, granted, the beginning of the episode has, I mean, let's be honest, some really fucking bad plot hole jetpacks. Okay, like we like that's ridiculous. The stuff at the beginning, um, but for the most part, I mean, the acting in this was super beautiful. Um, the incest, I was actually thinking about. I was like, who is that supposed to be? I was thinking, is it supposed to be young Emma? I thought it would be really interesting if he was like, it was like a flashback to him like having sex with Emma. um and they're like, maybe they chose a different actress, but then they reveal it's his mom. And you're like, oh, awesome, dude. But yeah, uh this wasn't doing it for me. I don't know. Like I could definitely see some people saying that it was gonna be that it was slow, but I'd say that I don't know. The Corlys actor was fantastic. Bela did some great scenes. Um, Damon was super entertaining, as always. The Bracken Blackwood stuff was interesting. The direction was incredible. Alicent was incredible in this episode. If I had any criticism, it would be that it's not really consistent with the previous episode. Like, there's just people acting a little different. Like Damon, all of a sudden being I don't know, like more power hungry than he was before or something. I don't know, but I thought it for the most part was a really great episode. I don't have too many things. Oh, it was so bad, really. Um, oh, the green scene from the Brackens was walking away was like Damon 1970s. I don't know. I was. I mean, we all have had, like, they've done that scene of like the dragon's head and everything, but I thought that it was okay. I really like, and when they did the cut, and he was like, I really didn't think they'd die so easily. I thought he'd killed them all. Um, so I thought, I thought it was fun. I mean, I guess everybody to each their own, but um, let's see, is House Valeryon going extinct? Um, I mean, here's the thing: and this might be forgotten cousins, but if you remember season 1, episode 7, the body swap episode, there are a fucking million Valaryans. There's a fucking million Valaryans hanging out. Not to mention, there's like that random Valaryon that Lena walked out with in episode 4 when Rhaenyra is like fine, or was that 4 or 5? 5? I think it was 5, when that random Valaryon dude that is next to Lena. There's a couple more random Valaryans that are at the wedding. All the random Valaryans in episode 7. I mean, there's a bazillion fucking Valaryans apparently, but shows can sometimes delete them. Like, in a Game of Thrones, they talked about all of the Tyrell cousins, and then the Tyrell cousins kind of all just disappear, and it's considered an extinct house. Once the Queen of Thorns dies. So good setup episode. I guess that was that. I guess, and I will say I do think also the show could do better with their cold endings. Like, they had a really awesome cold ending idea here, where you've got like the idea of the dragon seeds, and then like the last scene is kind of this like pan to a bunch of scrolls, and it's like it could have been more blunt. I think Game of Thrones, Dan and Dave were really good at blunt endings, especially season 1. And they could have done. I mean, let's give Dan and Dave like credit where it's due. Dan and Dave were really good at ending episodes. Like they were really good at like this is going to be the boom credits. And House of the Dragon has a lot of whimpers, a lot of whimper endings. Which is funny because they have beautiful directing and editing normally, but I do think their endings kind of whimper. You don't get that hard like this is the end of the episode and everyone goes oh like they had the opportunity, where he kind of with the dragon seeds kind of coming up with the idea, and then leave it at that. But yeah, it was freaking gorgeous the whole episode. Yeah, like the look of it was really real and lived in. Absolutely. And the CGI was great. Like, the dragon heads and the twins on like treating on that bridge, being out in the hills, being outside in the Riverlands with the Bracken and Blackwoods. I really liked it. Yeah. So, how does news travel so fast in this show? How do people travel so fast in this show? Yeah, that's the ridiculous thing is that there's just like so many, there's so like last episode we heard that Kristen Cole had been out a fortnight, and then he goes past the fortnight to Duskendale and then goes past Duskendale to Rook's Rest. So he's at bare minimum 3 weeks from getting Aegon's body back. And here he's like still smoking from the battle, and they're like, oh, these next coming hours are crucial. It's like he should have been on the road for 3 weeks. Or, I mean, what, they like strap him and Kristen Cole's horse, like everybody to the dragon. Did Kristen Cole and Gawain fly on the back of Vagar along with like the body of the king? Like they could have done that to get the body back, but they showed him riding in. It was a little silly, but that, ooh, very boring. I understand like where it's coming from, but I was into it. I don't know. Oh, was Maester Munkin African in the book? I'm African and would like to know. No. Or at least we don't know. There's nothing that says he was. The thing is we don't really know very much about the Citadel and who's allowed to go to the Citadel, and it kind of doesn't make that much sense even in the books, because if the Citadel is a place where like people can go and get 3 meals a day and a place to sleep, you'd think that like all sorts of small folk would be sending their kids to the Citadel, or like any random orphan is going to the Citadel and trying to get in. And so Pate, who in the prologue of a Feast for Crows, like he's like common, and he's able to go to the Citadel. So you think that like maybe anybody can go to the Citadel, and there are a few maesters that have foreign sounding names, for instance Archmaester Melos. But it seems that maybe you can choose new names if you want when you go to the Citadel, because everybody seems to have really weird names at the Citadel. I mean, besides there's a few that are not weird. There's a Maester John, there's a Maester Ryam, but like, and there's a Maester Marwyn. Those are normal names, but at the same time, like Walgrave, like there's no Walgraves, and that we find out in the story. So where do these names come from? Maester, Periston, stuff like that. So like, could Munkin actually be African? Well, or from say the Summer Isles or something like that. I mean, one would think it would have been mentioned, but or it's not impossible, but it's probably not. We don't hear about Summer Island. I mean, I guess Aleros is half Summer Islander. But Aleros seems to be. Here's the thing: is actually in A Feast for Crows. Lazy Leo makes a comment about about the Citadel lowering its standards by letting in a Dornishman, and things like that. So I mean, even though Oberyn had been at the Citadel, it makes it sound like it's unusual for Dornish to go to the Citadel. It might be unusual for people from abroad to go. Not that it's, impossible, but probably not. Um, but House of the Dragon was trying to make the cast more diverse. Um, the Could you possibly give a rundown of Rhaenyra's council? Lost track of who they are, and those river lords who woke Damon. Was that a read? Was that a read? No, I think the river lords that woke Damon were just supposed to be Brackens, but maybe there are a few others on there. Or is the I didn't see any sigils. It was very dark, and it was a kind of a weird scene in that I was expecting it to even be a dream sequence. I wasn't sure if it was a dream sequence or not because it's the middle of the night and people are acting weird. So I don't know. Maybe somebody else saw a sigil. A breakdown of Rhaenyra's council. So most of the guys are. Let me think. They're on the council. There should be the guy who's angry all the time. He's Brune. That's the Alfred Brune is his name. He's going to be pretty significant. I don't know if I want to spoil things, but he's going to be significant later on, which is why Broom is there. I'm sorry. At first I said Brune. That's not to be confused with Brune, right? Yeah. So you would actually think that he would be a Brune, as the Brunes were from the Crownlands and Cracklaw Point, and Cracklaw Point had mainly stayed with Rhaenyra, but he's actually Alfred Broom. He's in the source material he's just a landed knight, but here they've made him a full lord who is supporting Rhaenyra. They have there's a Lord Staunton who was the Lord of Rook's Rest. There is Massey. You may all know the name Justin Massey, but it's the same house. There's a Massey on the small council. And who else? I'm like, oh, and there's Celtigar. So Celtigar, Massey, Staunton, and Broom are kind of the main ones that I see. And then of course the Maester Gerardis. She makes him Grandmaster Gerardis, who's named after George R. Martin's agent. And then I think that's all. Massey is, on Massey's Hook. That's the edge of, we got these two peninsulas that come out towards Dragonstone. So Massey's Hook is one and Cracklaw Point is the other. Massey is from Massey's Hook in the Stormlands, and then Cracklaw Point, which besides Staunton, I'm trying to think of anybody else that would be there. The head of her Kingsguard is probably Darkland. Darkland is a Duskendale. They're also from Cracklaw Point, or so. But those are the main ones. Just Broom, Massey, Staunton, and Celtigar. But I didn't check. I didn't see the read. I'll have to look next time I go on that. Valeryon equals Valyrian. You choose their heir. Am I right? It's kind of what's kind of funny about obviously House Valeryon is named after well, what's funny, House Valyrian now is obviously derived from Valyrian, but George R. R. Martin pronounces House Valyrian really weird. He actually pronounces it closer to, he says Valyrion. Instead of Valyrian, he says Valyrion. Really weird pronunciation for it, but like not what I would have expected. To change like House of because I think the movie Dragon, he did it because it comes from that dragon. The his recent blog was about it, was about dragons, but there's the movie with Tyrion and the dragon, was that called Valeryon? What dragon? What dragon? Now I'm gonna have to look up like his freaking blog post on it because I can't remember. Yeah. So George R. R. Martin does this big blog post recently on the history of like dragons in cinema, or at least his subjective history of dragons. Um, Dragon Slayer, that's the movie. I'm sorry. So drag Dragon Slayer, 1981 movie. This is where you get kind of like George R. R. Martin sounding dragons. The dragon in it is named Viramax. And then there's Caitlin Clark as Valyrian. There's a character in it named Valyrian. Um, and then there's another character named Tyrion in this. So he's getting these. There's also an Ulfias in this and things like that. Um, but yeah, who choose their heir? Yeah, but your point is like right on. Like the Valyrians for some reason choose their heirs. I mean, I guess it's derived. I mean, it doesn't really derive from the freehold because like they were a freehold, which a freehold is like a limited oligarchic democracy in a sense. Like it's that their political structure, but but I imagine when they somehow, I mean, who knows how the individual houses chose their heads, but maybe like outside of their ruler or whatever their freehold political structure, like their houses might have chosen their successors, because certainly certainly it seems that Corlys gets to choose his heir. And one can make a big argument. I mean, you can probably argue it other ways, but when I read Fire and Blood, it seems like they're choosing. It's like Aegon is told, "Hey, who are you going to choose as your heir?" And he chooses Aenys, and then they kind of say, "Oh, who's Aenys going to choose?" And he kind of does this co-rule thing with Maegor, and Maegor seems to believe that he was named the heir. He's given Blackfire. He has Blackfire, and then Maegor picks an heir in Arya. So, and then even Jaehaerys keeps naming heirs. He names Aemon, he names Balon, he even names Viserys after the Council of 101. And then Viserys names Rhaenyra. That it seems to be the Targaryen tradition up until the war, that Targaryens chose their heir. So it seems like the Valyrians were choosing it as well. Off topic, but how could Brienne possibly be descended from Dunk? I can't make sense. I can't make it make sense. So the only way I've thought about this too. The only way I can possibly think that it makes sense is that Dunk has a bastard, and then that bastard enters into a legitimate marriage, and they have a child. And so the child of a bastard isn't necessarily a bastard, and then that child can marry into House Tarth at some point and not be seen as sullied as a bastard would be, or something like that. But it's convoluted and weak, right? And I don't even know if there'd be enough generations. You've got to, and then you'd think like it would come out like if Dunk like had an affair, you'd think it would be brought up by Sir Aerys Oakheart when he's talking about like the history of of Kingsguard, uh, not keeping their oath, like of chastity. Like you'd think that would be a major thing. Like, oh, the greatest king, one of the greatest Kingsguard of all time, like actually, broke his oath of chastity. Um, it might also be that he had the. It could be, well, let me think of another solution. Prior to becoming a Kingsguard, because he doesn't become a Kingsguard for a long time, it could be that he gets married and has a child. Like it's quite possible that Dunk gets married and has a child, and then joins the Kingsguard, which would be, we don't think of married dudes doing that, or maybe his wife dies, maybe his wife dies in childbirth, and he then goes and becomes a Kingsguard or something, something like that. But that's all I can kind of think. I guess that would be it. He has to get married and have the child, and then he could have a trueborn. But I just don't know why. I mean, the bigger barrier, not the Kingsguard bastard thing isn't even the biggest like barrier. The biggest barrier is that he's lowborn, right? And that why would anyone in House Tarth ever marry him or his descendants? I mean, unless he has to somehow get a massive amount of money at some point, or be awarded like land or something at some point, become a landed knight, a landed knight at minimum, in order to even be considered. And then like House Tarth is like just dropping beneath quite a bit to pull in. Like maybe he has a daughter, who's maybe he becomes a landed knight on Tarth, and he has a daughter, and he only has one daughter, and somebody feels like, okay, she's considered enough for let's say the third Tarth brother, and then the elder two brothers die, and unexpectedly the landed knight girl like ends up becoming lady. I mean, it's whatever it's going to be, it's going to be contrived. Okay. Yeah. Did I already, yeah. Am I out of order? Did I already get this on Maester Munkin? Yeah, yeah. Sorry that you had to do it twice, but yeah, I mean, we have no evidence in the book that he was. It's not impossible that he had darker skin of some sort, but probably unlikely. In episode 4, Damon met with the heir to Riverrun. He whispered in his ear before he sat down. In episode 5, all the Riverlords refused to work with him. Connected. No. I don't know. I mean, unless you're meaning something else, they were pretty explicit in that scene that he had given the Blackwoods free reign to be brave companions around the Riverlands, and everyone like saw it as unacceptable, and is taking it out on him. I don't know, unless there's something I'm missing. I mean, I'll keep an eye out on like the whisper, on the whispering to Oscar thing. I don't know. Are you worried that Helaena will be like Lolly Stokeworth due to the riot, Maelor Tanner? No, I don't think Maelor is. Doesn't sound like. It sounds like Maelor is. There is no Maelor. Maelor is written out of the show. I just don't think. You know. I think that's it. Um. Who is the episode in the episode? Who is the dragon in the episode 6 trailer? I mean, I thought. I don't know if I saw a new dragon. I thought it was. Unless they bring in Vermithor or something. I thought it was just they showed Caraxes a bunch, like that dragon at the end. I thought it was like Caraxes that arrived or something. That Damon, they're dealing with Damon talking, but I might be wrong. I'm not an expert on on who the dragons are. Do we know how fast ravens travel? In the books, a raven essentially takes about a day to get somewhere fairly close in like the south. But if you're talking about something going all the way to Winterfell, it might take 2 or 3 days. Um, Based on like raven speeds and everything, and that seems to all, work out. I don't know, like George doesn't really pay attention to this kind of stuff that much. He's actually even had blog posts where he's like, I imagine some people will be trying to figure this kind of stuff about travel speeds and whether these events are happening simultaneously and stuff. And he's like, I don't do that. I mean, he does it some, but he doesn't pay super close attention. But yeah, ravens, generally speaking, 1 or 2 days to get somewhere in the south. If you're sending something all the way up to the Winterfell, the Wall, it might take 2 or 3 days. Yeah, I kind of wish they showed the Freys were more loyal of a house in this era compared to Game of Thrones. That's true. In the source material, the Freys are hyper loyal as a contrast. I mean, the whole thing about Fire and Blood is you either find that the ancestor is exactly like the contemporary, or the ancestor is the exact opposite of the contemporary. And of course, in Fire and Blood, the Freys are super Rhaenyra loyalists who are just who spring to action and get to battle unrealistically fast. Like they get down from the twins and are doing Burning Mill and Stonehenge like way too fast in the books. But it's fine, Oh, spicy time. Can you get your read on the Trump thing? So, I mean, I think like a lot of people when it happened, I was pretty depressed. That this would give a lot of sympathy to Trump and things like this, and in that time, I've thought through things a little bit, and one, like the shooter being a registered Republican is obviously an enormous kind of thing, which means that it means that now there's like a confused narrative. Like obviously the Republicans are gonna be focusing on the fact, are gonna be trying to paint him as a Democrat. Somebody with his name donated $15 to a progressive cause, so they're gonna label him as a Democrat, and Democrats are gonna label him as a Republican. It's some people are like, oh, is Trump going to get sympathy? If the election were within the next couple of weeks, maybe. But the thing is the election's not until November, and people are going to forget about that. And so I was thinking about the whole thing. I mean, yeah, it's bad that like Trump got a few pictures of him like looking like a rock star with his fist up and looking strong. Like it's hard, that's clearly bad that he had those images. But again, people might forget about those. One of the things I think, I haven't heard anybody talk about this yet. Trump's entire spiel, though, to rile up his fans and his speeches, is about like, we need to fight, we need to take this country back, and now I mean, I don't know if he'll shy away from it or not, but it seems like if everybody's talking about how like, okay, we got to chill down, we got to relax on the violent talk, I don't see how he's going to be able to like do his regular speeches. I mean, we'll see what happens. The other positive, so that's kind of a positive thing I think for the Democrats, is the fact that like now Trump will have to actually dial back his like his fight rhetoric. The other thing that actually plays into the Democrats' hand is all of a sudden no one cares that Joe's old. Like the whole like Joe is old thing like disappeared, and you're like, oh really? I thought it was so important, media. No, gone immediately. And now it's a done, like, it's a settled issue. Like all of a sudden, like all like the for 2 weeks we had the article after article that was just like, more Democrats as the scandal keeps going. Now it's gone, completely gone. So yeah, I mean, I was depressed before, but now looking at it, I'm just like, I don't think it's going to change anything weirdly. I mean, but it'll be really interesting to see how Trump's like speech changes. I mean, next week they're going to try so hard to make it like at the convention to make it seem like there's this, big attack on Trump and things like that. But I don't know if that's going to play well. If the whole thing is like, no, violence is like the problem and this has gotten serious, and like Biden came out and did the whole like, we need to relax, that we should never have violence thing. I don't know how you go in and be like, those Democrats, we got to fight against them. We got to get them back. Because Trump's narrative has been largely like revenge. We got to get them back. We got to fight like hell. When you start bringing up things like the Proud Boys and all of that kind of stuff, I don't know how it's going to play. Or everyone's just going to forget about all of that and it'll be exactly the same by November. And this assassination attempt will be nothing. One thing also to remember, and this is a random thing, and I don't, obviously like what people think is when it comes to voting is more important than what is actually true. But assassins never have clear normal motives. like when people, like every time an assassination attempt happens, everyone's like, oh my gosh, it was done for this and this reason. And then when you actually like look at the guy, he's nuts. And like what he says that doesn't make any sense. And I'm talking like, look at like Ronald Reagan, like, and his assassin. Okay. The guy kind of wanted to impress Jodie Foster, or like John Lennon. And you're like, the guy like worshiped John Lennon, but then he like claimed it was for Catcher in the Rye. And you're like, it was just nothing, right? When Lee Harvey Oswald, like who knows what's going on in that guy's head? Like he was all over the place politically. And so in the end, like, do I think that this guy, this registered Republican who gave $15, maybe this is the thing, is the $15 might have been somebody else, but, is he going to have a logical narrative on why he tried to kill Trump? No, he's nuts. That's the whole thing about assassins. They're nuts. There will be no satisfying narrative on like, why did he do it? There never is a satisfying narrative on why they do it. There never is. So like, don't be looking for one. Like when be like, oh, why did he do it? We got to find a reason. There's going to be no fucking reason. It's going to be, he's fucking nuts. Because because why else? If he was rational, he wouldn't have fucking tried to kill the, So we'll see how it plays out. I was pretty depressed before, but thinking on it now and seeing how things are playing out, like, I don't know if it'll actually change anything. Like I say, I mean, it'll be interesting to see how people like frame the whole thing, but I don't think Trump's going to get really any sympathy for it. The people that sympathize with him already sympathize with him. The people that don't, don't. Like, is there some guy in the middle being like, "Whoa, I don't know who I'm going to vote for," but Trump put up his fist on his bloody face. I mean, if he's that kind of undecided person at this point, he's going to be undecided in 4 months. This isn't going to be the thing that changes anybody's mind. So, I mean, that's my whole thing on it. I mean, um, I don't know if it really changed. I don't think, weirdly enough, this is how fucking desensitized we are as a society. Weirdly enough, I don't think it's going to change anything. Except maybe, I mean, we'll see. I'm really interested to see how the narrative changes. You think they have Helaena like Lolly Stokeworth, Maelor Tanner? I hope not. Also, Damon knows his mom. Vizzy T says Damon was his favorite in season 1. Yeah, he does. It's weird that she says it's too bad that you don't know her. You were always his favorite. Unless it was something like he's only like 4 years old and he can't remember when she died. But it's let me it's a very weird it's a very weird line. Like, I'm too bad you didn't know your mom. But then we heard that she's his favorite. Let's see here. Trying to. All right. In the source material, when did she die? She dies in 84. Yeah, she dies trying to birth them brother Aegon, I think. And so if she dies in 84 and Damon is born in 81, I mean, if they're going with the source material, it kind of makes sense in that he's the favorite even though he's 3. But he can't remember her. So there's not technically a contradiction with that idea, is that he's just too young to remember her. You think they have Helaena like Lolly Stokeworth? I don't think so. I don't think there's going to be I just don't think there's going to be a Maelor. I don't think there's enough time for a Maelor. I'm trying to think when trying to remember when Helaena dies, because it's definitely after. Oh, it's pretty late. It's pretty late, isn't it? Oh man. Will they have her? I mean, I just don't know the point, like the point of she already has enough information. Like, she already has enough experience to already have the suicide, like she doesn't need any more tragedy to happen to her. I understand that there's, might be another riot of some sort, but I don't know the point of like having her getting pregnant and things like that. Not sure what the point of it would be. Just so that they have a baby for, Willis Fell to try to ride off with. Is that even who took off the baby? I'm trying to remember. But I don't know. I mean, I just don't. I mean, I don't see any evidence of it yet. Why would they need to do this to this character when she's already getting there, right? She already had the blood and cheese incident, so we don't need anything more to drive her over the edge. The interesting plot of Alicent wanting to be regent, I do think that was interesting. It was a great scene. It's a fucking beautiful scene. It is a beautiful scene, but and the horror, I was digging like the horror where she realizes, holy crap, my son is a monster and he has all this power, and like everyone is betraying me here. It does kind of make it gives her something to. It also gives her something to do. But like, um, I'm yeah, I am digging that actually. I mean, it a little bit makes sense in that she tells Aegon last episode that they should listen to people like her, and and then he doesn't, and then she gets in an even worse situation. She tried to play the whole she tried to make a play, and it made things even worse for her. And I mean, in general, she should be feeling massively guilty about so much. I mean, in the end, obviously she's gonna go crazy, but like we see all of the things mounting and mounting and mounting. Disloyal Damon plot sucks. Yeah, I think it's a little explicit. Like if you're gonna do the disloyal Damon, um, I don't know if I would have had it be so like he just straight up like Bond villain explains it all. Like, well, I'm king and I'm gonna be able to go to King's Landing in the end, and Rhaenyra will sit by my side, which you know I don't know what all of those dreams last episode were for then. I thought the dreams of him like killing Rhaenyra and feeling guilty about it were going to drive him to being loyal, but now he's even more disloyal this episode. So, um, yeah. Yeah, this is Maester Orwell on the wiki. Yeah, it's true. It's Orwell, not Munkin. Um, it's fairly. I mean, Orwell writes everything down, and then Munkin copies it, so it's like it's not that important. But yeah, but considering that like Munkin's source is Orwell, but yes, it is Orwell. This is kind of funny. Out of kingdom tuition is crazy. That's why we only see Westerosi at the Citadel. Yeah, it's funny about because it would like tuition would explain why there's so many highborn at the Citadel that you have to pay to go. Um, or you have to self finance or whatever. But the pate doesn't make any sense. I don't know how to like reconcile pate um, with anything, Or maybe you need a base like or you need a base level education to get accepted, for example. These two things would keep out the small folk, right? Base level of education or money or like a tuition of some sort, or that you need to pay money to send your kid to the Citadel. But Pate didn't have either of those things, so I don't know how to reconcile Pate with any of it. I fucking burst out laughing when it turned out not to be Emma. I thought it was Emma too. Please do a Pulling Vagar 4747 for the watch series. I love Faceless Whale. I mean, I think it's definitely going to appear that everyone's strapped to this like everybody's strapped to the dragon. It's the only way to explain that they're all back. I mean, I have to count all of the horses and everything and the head. That means they had the head because the head arrives at the same time. So they're like, okay, everybody get it on. Like strap the head, strap the king, strap Kristen Cole, like strap Gawain. Oh man. Oh, it was Lord Piper was there. Okay. I mean, I understand why they're bringing in Lord Piper and Lord Derry were there. Okay. Okay, interesting. I mean, I understand like based on the source material that like Piper has to come, but um but yeah, I think the 747. I mean, I think we're definitely dealing with the fact that how are they getting him back? Um Yeah, I thought it was the River Lords and they were bucking the atrocities on behalf of the Brackens. Yeah, I guess looking back at it, it has to be that because the Brackens, you hear about the Brackens submitting, but now, even though the Brackens submitted, all the other River Lords were like, whoa, 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 feeling bad about the Brackens small folk, which is, I mean, these lords are a lot more sympathetic to each other than in Game of Thrones or A Song of Ice and Fire. Um, Surely PJ discussions can be spoilery, right? Yeah, I'm pretty spoilery. Some people get angry at me, but yeah, I'm pretty spoilery on everything. Um, Winter's Broom, yes. I threw in the word broom in the fanfic because I thought it was the right word and beautiful, even though George R. R. Martin doesn't use the word broom um, in the series. Broom meaning fog. Um, this was the absolutely most boring episode I've seen yet. Huh. Yeah, I mean, here's the thing. Um, because I'm a little biased, right? That I can watch an episode, and I think most of you too. Like most of you, like we're very invested in the material. So when the episode comes out, like every little detail is like stimulating for us because it's something that we know, it's something we can look for. So we're not the best like uh, uh, people that ask about like whether or not an episode was boring or not, because we're going to be finding it exciting no matter what it is. It's like I'm sure an accountant finds accounting like fine and exciting eventually, but like I could see like I could definitely see somebody thinking that this episode's boring because it's a lot of talking. It's a lot of talking, but I really liked it. I liked all the direction and everything. It was cool to say another actor from Raised by Wolves. It's true. Lady Jane Eyre was Mother. If we just need to get Mother and Father, Alan of Hull together in a scene, that'd be great. But it's good to have. Isn't Massey a really old house? I imagine. The thing is, George R. R. Martin has retconned the first first men and Andal kind of stuff. So originally, when you go back at old interviews with George R. R. Martin, he'll say like, "Oh, you can tell the Andal houses from the first men houses because the first men houses tend to have very short names: Stark, Flint, you know." Um, and while the Andal names are going to be longer, but then, and he actually even names Lannister as an Andal house. He actually like says like Lannister is obviously like an Andal house, and it is true that like when you're talking about the conflict as a Stark Lannister conflict, like you'd like to have it established be like an Andal versus First Men kind of thing, that there's a cultural difference between them to start with. But then he retconned that, and the Lannisters are now First Men. So yes, Massey is supposed to be a First Men house too. So everybody's First Men. So which I always thought like when people are like, there's the blood of the First Men. We're an ancient house with the blood of the First Men. You're like, yeah, I can throw a rock. Everybody's got fucking First Men house like blood. It's like throwing a rock in America and being like, I've got Irish blood in me. Yeah, everybody's fucking has Irish blood in them. Like it's fucking America. Well, I have German blood in yeah, every American. Like so yeah. Are there any of his recent blog posts about the date of the Winds of Winter coming out? No, but I will tell you that I had an inspiration. Like sometimes like you get these moments where you're just like you have an inspiration and you're like, I've got to do a video about this. I've got to do a video about this. So I've recorded about half the script, and then I get to do some animation on it. And who knows how much time I'll have, because of House of the Dragon Watch. But all of a sudden I was inspired to do a video recently about the Winds of Winter and the history of A Dance with Dragons, and comparing George's behavior on A Dance with Dragons with the Winds of Winter. I think it should be a really interesting, cool video. You know, I do have to make it. I hope it doesn't go the way of some half done videos I have. But I mean, long story short, no, there's no updates on the Winds of Winter. There's none. There's none. Oh yeah, Dunk slept with an Evenstar kid and she lied. That's easy. Yeah. Okay. So we could have a situation where um he goes to Tarth, and the lady of the castle is trying to get pregnant and she can't, and the Lord is very worried that their house is going to go extinct, and he ends up sleeping with the lady, and she gets pregnant, and they're like, oh, problem solved. Something like that could happen. I suppose that could be it. What surname does a child of a bastard have? I don't think they have. I don't think they get a surname. I think they wouldn't, or maybe you could choose a surname. I don't know. But you wouldn't be Rivers, or you wouldn't be Snow. I think some people just don't have surnames. So I think you just not have surnames. In the original Game of Thrones, Catelyn fears Jon not because of Jon's claim, but because of Jon's children's claim. That Jon is getting raised pretty much highborn. He would probably get a somewhat okay marriage, and then his children would be trueborn. And then they could say, well, I'm a trueborn person with Stark blood. Can't I inherit or something? But this is her thing, is she doesn't fear Jon and his claim. She fears Jon's children's claim, which is interesting. Is it true that Sunfire the Golden is dead? That was, obviously we know in Fire and Blood that the Sunfire is not dead, but maybe they'll do something. But I could see it going either way. Like, one, like, oh, we don't have to animate another dragon, but it might just be that they're keeping it a secret, or that the end was a masterclass of exposition dump. A little bit. It didn't need to be so long, but I thought it was, the Jace actor really sold it for me. He was pretty energetic on it, and he's really, I don't know, he's a nice actor to watch. He's engaging. But yeah, Jace is the person that comes up with the Dragon Seed scheme in the books. But I'm trying to remember. Fuck, wait a minute. Didn't Damon, I remember making a comment on this. Didn't Damon drop that idea at the end of season 1? I have to go back, because I want to say that they might have ruined it with Damon saying that there was more, that if they could find riders. No, you know what? He says if we can find riders, and then they pan to Bela or something, or they pan to Rhaena. So Damon brings it up. So they did kind of ruin. They decided to go back to the source material, but that's kind of a screw up, I think, because I think Damon had already mentioned that they need to find dragon riders for their dragons. And then Damon goes down and is like singing to Vermithor, like, right? Like, why would he be singing to Vermithor if he wasn't thinking about a dragon seed scheme or someone trying to ride Vermithor in season 1? I much prefer the book idea. I much prefer Jace having the idea. I think the scene was a good scene, even though it's exposition dump. Fine, but it does contradict. I think it contradicts what happened in season one. I have to look back on that. Oh, we're back on the. I'm kind of back in time here, you know. So this is back when I talked about Trump. Unless the media holds him to account, it won't change at all. This is a big truth. Is the media right now? The media right now just is a lot of the CEOs, you know, are Republicans, and they are definitely like creating this. That's part of it. Part of it is also there's like Democrats and Republicans consume media differently. So Democrats click and tune in when it's like crisis, and Republicans tune in to hear echo chamber. And so, you know, it both situations play to let's put on Democrats in disarray, like narrative, which is, you know, everybody, all the mainstream media has become kind of right wing. Isn't it refreshing to see the Blackwoods be the bad guys for once? Yeah, a little bit. I'm trying to think. Certainly in the Jaime chapters, the Brackens are seen as the Blackwoods are seen as, you know, more loyal, and the Brackens not as great. Though the historian kid is a Bracken, the one that's plopped on with Jaime, right? Isn't he a Bracken? I'm trying to think about Jaime 1. Dance with Dragons. By the way, I was doing research the other day, and Jaime 1 was written really early, which is really interesting because it's like, you know, we finally read it in A Dance with Dragons, and he had finished that, like, you know, during the A Feast for Crows writing period. Is it? No, okay. He goes off. I'm just making sure that he's no, I'm sorry. It was Hoster Blackwood. I'm wrong. I thought maybe it was Bracken. No, Hoster Blackwood is the, yeah. It is a little refreshing to see the Blackwoods more as the villains and the Brackens kind of as the heroes here. I do kind of like that. You know, it's kind of like how we wanted to see better Freys here, some likable Freys, you know. Oh, back in the poor Jodie Foster. Yeah. What of MLK or Malcolm X? Yeah. I mean, all these people are. I mean, MLK was killed by the far right crazy, and Malcolm X. There's a lot more. Yeah, more conspiracy stuff with Malcolm X, but this is about whether or not this will help or hurt Trump, or help or do anything. I'm just kind of the belief that, like, right now everything's kind of baked, and that it's more about which organization is going to be able to, like, get out the vote, rather than, like, worrying about the sway of public opinion, as if public opinion is this, like, you know, fickle thing. I mean, maybe in the last weeks. I mean, like, I'm just thinking, like, okay, during the Hillary Trump cycle, like the grab her by the pussy thing had no effect on Trump, because it happened like 2 months before, while it was only a couple of weeks. It was like 1 week before, like we had more Hillary email kind of stuff coming out. Like, and so it was, when it's right close to the election, that's one thing. But when it's a couple months before, and this is like 4 months before, so. Can't stay. Thanks for being awesome and cooling down the election rhetoric. Yeah, I mean, it's obviously it's very worrisome, and I understand why everyone is so upset about this. But also, let's think about like people, like left-wing people getting panicked and upset means that they're passionate about something. They're passionate about voting against like Trump. And you got to remember, like, having despair and everything about this doesn't like, it doesn't change like your action. Like, your action is going to be vote for the Democrat, vote for Biden. Like, and bad things can happen. Your play is the same, or you can donate some money, you can phone bank, whatever you want, but like, you can agree to drive people and carpool for voting and things like this. All of that should have been your play before. It's still your play now. Like, nothing's changed with regards to you. Like, in it's, you're doing the same thing that you would have done before. So worrying about, and it is easier said than done, but worrying about it doesn't really, doesn't do anything. Unless it's motivating you to vote and get involved and try to get as many people to vote for as possible. 5 episodes in and no mention of Helena's grief. How will they make her suicide make sense? They even had a scene where she specifically said she didn't feel sad at all. I mean, you're making a good point. I'm reminded of House. Do you remember when they killed off Cal Penn's character, and they just kind of like randomly committed suicide? Now this was really because Cal Penn was leaving the show, but some people were like, oh well, it actually like plays into some, a lot of times people take their own lives and the people around them have no idea. They have no idea they were struggling and going through things and stuff like that. So they could, they could pull something like that where like, it's not mentioned forever. And then she just takes her life. So who knows, but, we'll see. I mean, I see what you're saying. And by the time when we're talking about like when it's going to happen, we're talking like, I mean, it's going to be post season 3, end of season 3. Going to be a while, right? People have forgotten about the grief. Pate has screaming student loans. Pate got a scholarship. It wasn't academic, that's for sure. That's for certain. The student loans. But he talks about how he could like he could squeak by a living because he's learned enough healing that he could squeak by a living, like being a town healer and stuff. If he had to pay them back, it would have been a little worse. The entire Damon thing is just a dream. He'll wake up from the nightmare and be a loyal spouse and good father, and he has the best dragon. It's possible. It's hard to everything now. I mean, and I'm convinced this is intentional, but every scene at Harrenhal with Damon has a weird, ethereal, off feel to it, where we're not sure what's real and what's not. I mean, I think most like it seems like a lot of us were watching those scenes with the lords arriving and being like, "Is this a dream or not?" Well, we can't. We know we just don't even know what's going on with Damon. So, um, it's weird though to like go to the next episode without having him like wake up or something and or really hitting it home. So I don't know. Um, how is King's Landing out of food? The blockade is only by sea. I guess it's like, and they like specifically like, yeah, the soldiers like marched in and the high towers like they have most of the reach. I mean, this reminds me of the Phantom Menace, where they're like, my people are dying. Your people are dying because like space trade has like stopped for a few days. Like, how? Like, what do you? There's some special medicine that Naboo needs. How is King's Landing out of food? The blockade is only by sea. I don't know. I don't know. Plus, they're like by the sea. They can fish. The fish can go right under the blockade. That's the thing about fish. Um, yeah, I think that might be. I think that might be. I think we might hear Brandon complain about that one. I have to see again what the people are like yelling and why they're trying to get out of the city. Um, because it's just I'm like trying to analyze like again like the Hugh scene with his wife. It's like what the kid seemed a little sick. Like maybe there was like foreign medicine that was getting blocked by the blockade, but uh, it shouldn't be that important. It shouldn't really be that important. Oh man, man. Uh, oh, the head arrives before the king, but I think like they must strap. If it were strapped to a dragon, they would have unloaded it all. Huh. Huh. Does Gawain have the same role in the book? Um, no. Gawain Hightower. I'm trying to think. I think he's on a different front. Let me. No, Gawain in the book is part of the City Watch. Um, so he has a completely different role, and yeah, that's right. Gawain Hightower is so they've completely cut Luther Largent from the story, but there was a rather important character in Fire and Blood named Luther Largent who was made head of the City Watch, and he was put in there. They removed the former head of the City Watch and put him in there um, because they thought that the former head might be loyal to Rhaenyra, so they put in Luther Largent, but they were unsure of Luther Largent, so they made Gawain Hightower the second in command. I don't know why they just didn't make Gawain Hightower the commander, but they put in Luther Largent. So I have a theory that Luther Largent was put in there by Laurie Strong and that they were hand in glove together. But Gawain Hightower was the second in command of the City Watch, and he's put in there to keep an eye on Luther Largent. And then when Luther Largent gives up the city, he he um he kills Gawain. But Gawain has a completely and utterly different role. I mean, now that he's back in the city, I'm sure that they're gonna. I mean, I'm sure they're gonna eventually give Gawain that role or something. But um, because they seem intent on having Gawain be a major character. So we got to have enough stuff here. Um, Boring when Alice River straight up evaporated before Damon's eyes. There was some great. I have to say that the Damon stuff with the editing and like what he's looking at with the food and cuts and the confusion on where you are, I think it was pretty great. I think it was pretty great. I mean, I can't say anything bad about the direction and acting in the show. It's pretty great. Um, I thought we were ending season 2 at the Battle of the Gullet, but apparently no. How are we going to end this on a cliffhanger? And where can they end this? Well, this is I'm trying to think of. I imagine if they're not going to end it on the Gullet, they would have to end it on like Battle by the Lakeshore. Would be my guess. Um, Not to be confused with no, I'm sorry, not Fish Feed, because no, it is Fish Feed, right? No, no. That's the so there's two. See, they've been mentioning the Starks coming down, and they began the season with the Starks coming down, and they have all of this like. Um, so I want to say that it's that I the big battle seems to be it's going to be Battle by the Lakeshore, but I'm trying to think if oh, okay, yeah. So I think if it's not going to be the Gullet, they'll end it on Battle by the Lakeshore, which makes sense in that we're bringing in all of the Riverland characters. We've started with the Starks. We're bringing in the Brackens and the Blackwoods. We've been talking about the Lannister army coming over, so it's seeded that this Battle by the Lakeshore is going to happen. So I guess that's going to be episode 7 or 8. We're not sure, which one, but it seems like that's definitely if it's not the Gullet, it'll be the Battle by the Lakeshore. Um, and then Kristen Cole doesn't die until Butcher's Ball, so you don't have to. We don't have to worry about like major characters dying. But I'm trying to think, like, what kind of cliffhanger would happen at battles like because it's such a nice like bookend ending that you'd end with Jace's death. But if they're not going to do Gullet, I don't know. I mean, you could. Um, is that it? I'm just trying to think of like anything significant. I mean, you get to see Starks fighting something like that. People will like it. Um, and Prince Aemon, yeah. I guess you can get more dragons in there, but I don't know because it's there's no dragons at the battle. But I'm just like trying to think of like what it means. I mean, I guess you can your ending of the season is Aemond like retreating or something. Uh, I get. I mean, more stuff has been put in about the Riverlands, so it seems to be that rather than we've hardly heard about the Gullet at all, except for we haven't seen the ships, anything like that. Um, I guess we have Alan as a character, but that's about it. Uh, Jace actor is nailing it. I do think that Jace actor is nailing it, and he's doing just a lot better than season 1. He's really grown as an actor. Um, he's doing a really good job. And White Worm getting into Rhaenyra's ear, just like Varys did with the Mad King. Yeah, in the inside the episode, um, uh, Ryan Condal brings this up. He mentions that um, that with Rhaenys dead, that Alice that Mysaria is now like in that role, um, in her ear. Of course, we never really saw Rhaenys giving that much advice to Rhaenyra. I mean, we had a couple scenes, I guess, this season, but Rhaenys spends most of her time giving this sort of like approving motherly stare of like, yeah, Rhaenyra's awesome. Yeah, like that kind of thing. Um, she should have been more, more in the hand position, really. I mean, I guess she gets accused of being hand, but um, this is funny because no, you're totally right. Am I the only one who thought that Damon was suggesting that Black would seduce Bracken to win? It reminded me of Tyrion and Jon. Is there anything else I can do for your scene? I definitely thought that. When he was like, every man has a weakness, and he's like, yes, he does. Like every man does, and you're like, did Damon signal like figure out that both of these dudes were gay and that he's asking Blackwood to like fuck Bracken? Like that was definitely a thought of mine in that scene. I'm glad you're not that someone else thought that too. I definitely like when I heard about because when you're hearing about like men's weaknesses, I'm sorry, the first thing you go to is something sexual. And so like when you're talking about like a bunch of like men in an angry, tense situation, and then you bring up sex, I was like, is he talking about Blackwood sleeping with Bracken? Like, you need to go fuck that dude. And all of a sudden, all peace. But yeah. Who's the hell new mod? I mean, if there's problems, let me know. Let's see. Did Biden forgive paid student loans? Yeah, the too bad Pate died. So a little too late. That's too bad. Okay. Are they out of food? Which dragon would you try to claim during the dance? I mean, if you're gonna go for a dragon and the dragon's just gonna kill you, you might as well go big and go Vermithor, right? That's I mean, I can't see like what the point would be of trying of like going for a small dragon. I mean, I would probably try to go for one that was had a rider before. Like I wouldn't go for like Grey Ghost or Cannibal or something like that, or Sheep Stealer. I would go for somebody like Vermithor or Silverwing, some big dragon that seems like it might accept somebody. Is a WGA strike to blame for inconsistencies? I think that like you can just read or watch the previous episodes to keep things consistent. I don't know if there's any need for if that could cause inconsistencies. I mean, I don't know. I don't know what people what if there's anything more that I'm not thinking about in that. Like, can't anybody watch a previous episode and make sure that things are consistent. um, Preston, help me cope. New book covers plus new series logo is legit the most hopeful sign of the Winds of Winter yet, right? No, man. Like, I'm not going to sugarcoat it. No, no. Like, it means nothing. It means nothing. The new covers are out because there's the show's out. That's it. And they're hoping that people would like buy the books, because there's new covers. Like, that's it. That's it. I mean, when the Dune movies came out, they did new covers for the Dune series because people are going to go out and buy the books. That's the only thing that they're thinking about. There's no The Winds of Winter. Like, George R. R. Martin would be telling us about his progress. And this is a big thing. I mean, I'm going to have a video on this, but like, George R. R. Martin would be telling us about his progress on The Winds of Winter if he was making progress on The Winds of Winter. George R. R. Martin talks when things are good, and he says nothing when things are bad. That's the whole thing. He was very, very vocal on his progress on A Dance with Dragons. When things are great, he lets us know. We have no evidence, zero evidence that he is making any good progress on The Winds of Winter. Because he would be in a good mood, and he would say, oh, I just like, here's the thing about George R. R. Martin and his blog. Many of you have forgotten what blogs were, but like blogs like were like people writing about what's happening in their life randomly every day. Now we don't do that anymore. But at the time, like, that's what a blog was. And George R. R. Martin used his blog like a blog. When football is on, he'll say, hey, oh man, it really sucks that the Jets lost. This is the worst day ever. When he watches a movie, he comments on like, oh, this was a really great movie. I just finished Shogun. It was a really good series. When his friends die, like, he writes about that. When he has some product that needs to be produced. And when he has a good day writing, he puts on the blog, I had a great day writing. Really excited about things. That's just not what's going on here. That's just not what's going on here. The other thing is George R. R. Martin he writes in bursts. So he'll either crawl along or he'll just go nuts. Okay, so people forget that A Dance with Dragons, everybody's like, oh man, A Dance with Dragons took 6 years to finish. Well, that's not completely true. A Dance with Dragons, he had written 1/3 before A Feast for Crows had been released, and he wrote the final third. He wrote another third in the final year. So he spent like 5 years just like slowly going. In fact, it was about 2 years he made no progress. He was just rewriting for 2 years. Then he made very slow progress. And then he just had this banger year. 2010 was just this banger fucking year. He wrote over 500 pages, 500 manuscript pages. So when we've heard about this, like COVID was a banger time for George R. R. Martin, and he let us know. He let us know that it was a banger time. If he were having a banger time, we would know. There's nothing on his blog that says that, yeah, like, been making great progress, like anything. No. So I'm sorry to burst your bubbles, but like, The Winds of Winter is nowhere close. Like, it's nowhere close. We would know. It's not a secret. Like, he doesn't make it a secret. There's no surprise. Like, the book's done. Like that's not going to be it. It'll be like, I'm making great progress. And then a year later of him being like, oh my God, the things are flowing. then kind of situation. Speaking about Starks, the show seems to be leaning into Starks being honorable in a Southern sense, like Ned. Do you have a prediction on how they'll reconcile this with the Hour of the Wolf? I mean, it's a good point, but I mean, I think they're just going to reconcile it by really looking at it from like the Starks are just, they sent down their people to fight, and then, so I think he sent down the Winter Wolves, and the Winter Wolves are going to have it, and then he's going to say, okay, now they're just going to have him send more people like they did in the source material, not not even mention that he held these people back. He's just going to send more people. And he's going to arrive, and he's going to be the boss, and he's going to think everybody is ridiculous and evil and needs to be killed and hanged. And then that's going to happen. And then he's going to, be like, but I don't want to rule. And he's going to go back north. And that's about it. I think they're going to play it pretty straight with them rather than them being sneaky and crafty, which I think they were. I think Cregan Stark definitely was sneaky and crafty, but I think they're going to play it straight. Just because, I don't know, that scene with Cregan at the beginning, he just seemed so earnest. That's just how he's going to be later on too, I think. I don't think they're going to, I think they're going to play Hour of the Wolf like this is a man doing everything right. Like he's killing all the right people, and he's ordering everybody around, and he's reconciling the kingdom and setting it right. I think that's what they're going to have at the end. But we got years until that, so we'll see. Years until that. We need Viserys the Third on the Iron Throne. It would have made sense. It would have made sense. It would have been great. I don't know how, I'm trying to think how Viserys the Third would have actually been as a king. Because they betray him. I guess behind the scenes, he would have been a jerk. But if he had everything back, would he be bitter anymore? His main character attribute was angry that everything had been taken away from him. So what happens when he gets it all back? What would he even know what to do with himself? I'm trying to think. He wasn't stupid, but I don't know. Blackwood Sidious bracket, y'all just horny. I'm just saying, I wasn't the only one. When someone mentions a man's weakness, gay sex is not the first thing we think of. It's the thing you think of after a big heated, two men staring at each other kind of thing. So if Sunfire is dead, are they not going to have Rhaenyra live? Scared of another Dany fandom meltdown. They have to have Sunfire be alive. It's just too iconic for Sunfire to eat. It's too iconic for having Sunfire eat Rhaenyra. That's just too much. Sunfire's got to be alive. Now that I think it over. Go for Cannibal, just replace it with a different dragon. Dance with Dragons, the best dragon would be the one that had the most experience fighting other dragons. Cannibal, yes, eating babies counts as fighting. Shut up. trying to think about this, but I mean, Vagar has the most experience being told what to do, and being like, burn that, bite that kind of situation. So I mean, it still just seems like Vagar. I mean, a lot of this is like how much agency do the dragons really have? Um, you know, when you're when the if they're just getting commanded around, it's like does the best horse, like what's the best horse to bring into battle? Well, yeah, I mean, being used to battle and not being spooked is probably an important thing, but isn't like the horse rider and like um how well the horse can be controlled, isn't that a more important thing than actual like fighting? I mean, you're right that in the source material they do say like battle hardened, like kind of things, or at least before he deleted it. George R. R. Martin did put that Meleys was battle hardened and then deleted it. So I don't know. Um, all depends on what you think, like how much the dragon has a mind of his own. Speed versus might. Don't forget about crazy, man. Crazy beats big every time. um, Kind of odd that Damon and all the Targaryens blatantly threatened Bracken with Dragonfire and didn't deliver. Undermines all future threats. It's true. It's true. I mean, you kind of have to follow through on something like that. If you say you're gonna burn somebody and then you don't. But here's the big thing about like like negotiations. As long as you keep it a secret, or as long as people don't know about this, a lot of times they talk about negotiations with terrorists, right? People always say, that, oh, it's best that we never negotiate with terrorists because then it just encourages more terrorism. Well, it's really but negotiation brings a lot of things out of it, and so really the best thing is to claim that you don't negotiate with terrorists and try to keep a secret that you do, but actually negotiate with terrorists. So he just has to keep it a secret. Of course, he delivered on punitive action anyway, though. I mean, it wasn't Dragonfire, but it was like your small folk get killed and your crops burned and that kind of stuff. So at least there was a punitive action. George doesn't like the fandom now. He says y'all complain too much about not having wins yet. Yeah. Isn't George a Giants fan? George is both a Giants and a Jets fan. He likes them both. Giants is his main but he likes them both, yeah. I don't know. I mean, I wouldn't say that much about it. I think it's unfair to say that George um, doesn't like the fans. I think that, keep in mind that like he can be sensitive about stuff, and he's been dealing with this stuff forever. Um, when I when I put out my Game of Thrones watch episode 3, a lot of people put like in the comments like immediately I've spent the whole week like doing this video, and I post it, and a good number of comments are, where's episode 2, where's episode 2, don't forget about episode 2, where's episode 2, where's episode 2, and you're just like, like I just put all of this work in, and it's like all you're doing is harassing me about like some other thing. Like, from George's perspective, you can kind of like like understand that, like, okay, all fans ever want to talk about is like, where's wins, where's wins, where's wins, where's wins. Oh, I'm exhausted. I've been doing all of this fucking work on whatever, and all people are asking me is about wins. Like, I can understand like him being upset. He's a human. I mean, also there's the idea that, like, he's a professional writer, and it has been a long fucking time. Like, come on. But you just kind of get into his head a little bit. Like, does he really dislike his fans? No. Do I dislike, like, from everybody saying like, oh, where's episode 2? Where's episode 2? Do I dislike my fans? No, not at all. I was just like, oh god, like, So there's just that. I think there's a lot of that aspect to it, where he doesn't dislike his fans, but certainly, like, his fans like nagging him gives a kind of like exhausting feel to him. I think that's more it. I think he likes fans a lot. I think one of the things he really misses is like going to cons and meeting fans and um all, like, he loved that, and now he doesn't do it really anymore. Um, if Baylor replaces Nettles, I hope it makes Damon reflect on Lena. Also, what George R. R. Martin character would you cast Ian McKellen and Patrick Stewart to play? Um, if if Bela or Reyna, right? I think people were saying Reyna might replace Nettles. I mean, they're trying to give Reyna something to do, but Reyna has mourning, right? So I don't know how they can really have her replace Nettles. Um, I'm trying to think, like, because everybody's remembering that season 1 scene of him, like, of Reyna being like, "Oh, Dad doesn't like me because I don't have a dragon," and all this. Um, and since then, Damon has put zero thought into his daughters. Zero thoughts. If they were building towards something like that, you'd think they would put more in there about his relationship. But they've put no time at all of Damon thinking about his daughters. Very little time of his daughters thinking about their dad. Very little. There's the one kind of reference in this episode about Damon being upset that Rhaenys claimed Meleys. Um, but I don't know. Yeah, I just, I mean, it's, I do like all of the Damon reflecting things and bringing back other characters. I mean, I do like it. I wish they would throw in Rhea Royce, and things like that. I think it would be interesting. But what George R. R. Martin character would you cast Ian McKellen and Patrick Stewart to play? I'm trying to think. Like, does it have to be somebody that hasn't appeared? Like, I was thinking about Pycelle the other day. Like, originally, so the guy from Last Crusade, the guy who played Pycelle, who we all kind of know him as the villain from Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade. Um, he was not the first choice to play Pycelle. Pycelle originally had Roy Dotrice. Roy Dotrice was going to play Pycelle, and then it didn't happen. But I'm trying to think of, like, some old character that either one of them could play, because, man, both of them are getting pretty old. So not that they'd be bad, not that they'd be bad as, like, Bloodraven. I'm just trying to think of anybody else that's old. Um. Oh, how about Ian McKellen as who's the old guy in A Storm of Swords, where who the Brotherhood Without Banners talks to. Fuck, what was his name? I'm sure people will be like, I'm sure people in the chat will immediately be like, I recognize it. Stewart is Pain. Eustace Osgray. Oh, that's some not bad. Tragic Stewart is. You'd be Ian McKellen would be really good as Eustace Osgray from the Sworn Sword. But I was thinking about Lyman Leicester. Lyman Leicester would be there's an old guy that you can have in the story. Try to think anything. There's a character that should have appeared. Good old Lyman. Let me see here. Oof, oof. What's the purpose of the word Mel uses for glamours if not magic? I'm struggling to come up with sci-fi explanations. Oh, so yeah, Mel talks about different ways to glamour, and I think we see those different types of ways to glamour at the House of the Undying, right? So we've got like prosthetics, and then what does she say? Oh, I've got because she does use like a charm, right? Let me see here. What does she say? She says, does she say glamour? Here it is. The strongest glamours are built on such things. Doesn't she use glamours? I'm trying to remember, but is it the House of the Undying that starts talking about the different types? I want to say, here we go. Mummers change their faces with artifice. Sorcerers use glamours, weaving light and shadow and desire to make illusions that trick the eye. These arts you shall learn, but we do goes here deeper. Wise men can see through artifice, and glamours dissolve before sharp eyes. But the face you're about to don will be true and solid as the face you were born with. Keep your eyes closed. So my idea on what was going on with the Faceless Men is telekinesis, actually. That they're using telekinesis to actually shift their face if they're really strong. We know that, like, at least Arya sees Jaqen H'ghar's face ripple. And so it was solid. And when the faceless men tell her to become the ugly little girl, they tell her that her face is going to be solid, right? The face you will don will be solid as your true face. So if the face were like what they do in the show, which is just, Mission Impossible, that sounds like artifice. Like, that's not very far from artifice, and it's not solid, right? That's just a mask. And so I think for something solid, because again, and it's not glamour, it's not an illusion. Like, the only thing that makes sense is that the face is actually literally shifted. But what's making it actually literally shift? Well, your mind, right? So then wouldn't that be telekinesis if you're using your own mind to shift the flesh on your face? So I kind of I'm thinking that the most advanced faceless men have telekinesis, which would make sense on why Arya is able, because she has telepathic abilities, would be able to be a potential person to do it. that's kind of why I've now what a glamour is like weaving light and shadow, um, and desire. I'm not sure like what that could possibly really mean. I mean, with the desire, you kind of imagine some sort of telepathic suggestion kind of idea, but I don't know how could you use telepathy to bend light, or telekinesis to bend light. Um, I don't know. It's unusual. It's very unusual because it's even when you just go, okay, it's magic, but like George R. R. Martin very clearly like thought about this and wanted to be kind of precise, which is the weirdest kind of aspect to it. Um, Here, let me pull this out again. Like why go through the trouble of having this very precise definition of what they're doing, right? Like mummers change their face with artifice, the kindly man was saying. Sorcerers use glamours, weaving light and shadow and desire to make an illusion with the trick of the eye. Wise men can see through glamours that they dissolve. What you will don will be as true and solid as the face you were born with. Like, if the answer were just magic. Oh, they can use magic and this is magic. Like a weak magic and a strong magic. Like, if it's just magic, why this very precise explanation of the difference between glamour and solid face changing? Like, just teach her a glamour. Just teach her a magic of glamour. Like, I don't like what's the difference? Like, why is this like nuance added? So I mean, I think George is definitely thinking about some sort of ability, like what ability is happening with a glamour versus solid face. Um, I mean, it's got to be right. He wouldn't put that kind of like very detailed nuance in there if there wasn't actually some substance behind it. You know, um, wins ain't happening. Probably not. Probably not happening. But Sanderson surprised me with 5 secret books, and those two made me cry. Maybe Sanderson is not George R. R. Martin. They're two very different men. Two very different men. Um, Mormons really believe they will create universes when they ascend to godhood. Yeah, the it's interesting that the interview the of the guy that like tried to trash Sanderson, because it's like Sanderson is a Mormon, but he's like he just kind of keeps it to himself. Like, we don't really know how devout he is, and like he just kind of he is a Mormon, but it's he doesn't talk about it very much. Like, JC is not on the tip of his tongue. He's not going around trying to convert people. Um, I don't know. I mean, I haven't really read anything by Sanderson, so maybe some other people can say like, no, his actual like religion is very much part of his books. I don't know, but it made it seem like after that scandal that like that he was that Sanderson was like a barely practicing Mormon. Um, COVID was a banger time is up there with death is failure for Preston quotes I want on a t-shirt. Thoughts, Carmine? It's true. It's true. Um, but yeah, COVID was a banger time for the Winds of Winter. I mean, first of all, there's a lot of things I say. Look, COVID was bad and all for the world, no doubt. But I will say that like overall, for me personally, COVID was great. Like COVID was a like if it were not for COVID, there would not be like the same telework options in my job, which were just fantastic, like just utterly fantastic. And we just wouldn't be in that situation without it. And it's like, sorry, millions of people. That's horrible and all, but like COVID was, thank goodness COVID happened. Like for me, like, oh my God, my life is so much better because COVID happened. But, put that on a t-shirt. My life is so much better because COVID happened. Um, Viserys the Third was a nepo baby. He wouldn't actually rule. But the Mad King Aerys was a nepo baby too. They were all nepo babies. Maegor the Cruel was a nepo baby. Um, they're all nepo babies, right? So who knows? It's hard to say what would happen. Um, about Cregan Stark, we see that it is autumn, and it's hard to raise troops in autumn, which is why it's easier for Robb to raise troops in summer. But autumn, Roderick and Lewin struggle to raise men. Um, in Fire and Blood, he does claim, yes, winter is coming. We've got to pull in the crops. But in the show, isn't it just? Does he use that excuse too? I thought it was like we've got to man the wall. We've got to man like I have to check that out again. But I thought he said that like it was like man in the wall kind of stuff. Um, Yesterday's shenanigans talked about. Yeah, we talked about Shannon Doherty. I can't even pronounce Shannon Doherty's name. Poor Shannon and Richard Simmons and Dr. Ruth, who I thought died 20 years ago. I had no idea Dr. Ruth was still alive, and she passed away. But you guys might all be too young to remember Dr. Ruth, but Dr. Ruth was, I mean, she was pretty famous at a time. Bloodraven and or Bran sent Cold Hands to help Garrett and bring him to the Black Gate so Garrett could open the door and bring the Mama Direwolf with him. Thoughts? The thing about anybody else being there is that Garrett was still like a raving, scared madman when they picked him up, which is not. I mean, that's not very realistic considering it's been. I mean, I'm assuming he's on foot. We're talking it would have taken months for him to get to the wall, and then get to Winterfell area. I'm assuming he was on a horse. He's got to be on. I mean, we have no reason, I guess, to think that he wasn't on a horse. He was tending the horses, right? So you get him on that horse. You get him to the Black Gate because he's been in the Watch forever. Maybe he knows about the Black Gate. That's the explanation where he gets through. And then I would say you have time traveling Bran or Bloodraven or whoever sent the Mama Direwolf watching. And as he goes through the Black Gate, they have the Direwolf like stalk in right after, it's exactly like the Wizard of Oz where, they're all going, oh, and then in come Tin Man, Lion, and Scarecrow, following the guards. Or I'm not sure if they're Winkies in the movie, but they follow the Winkies in, and I imagine the same thing happened with the wolf. So this is the headcanon. Garrett's going through the Black Gate, and then Mama Direwolf makes it through. Without Garrett's horse smelling it. I don't know how Garrett's horse would not be smelling the direwolf. But nonetheless, or maybe they leave it open and the door is open for a while. He's just leaving it open. He doesn't think to close it. And the direwolf makes it through. And then Garrett gets Can he get the? Oh man, I don't know how they're bringing the horse. Like even if you bring the horse through the black gate, how do you get the horse up the stairs? That'd be really hard to get the horse up the. Yeah, there's no way there's no way he's getting the horse through. Okay, so he leaves the horse behind. He opens the gate. The direwolf sneaks through after him. The horse just isn't there, and it's just taking. Garrett just has to walk from there. There's no way he's getting that horse through. But I don't know about help. I don't think it could be help because if Garrett like had met cold hands and stuff like that, it'd just be a different situation. Um. Oh, Catelyn flat out says in class that she's lost men to battle and the harvest. Yeah, I imagine. I imagine you'd lose some people, but not as many as Cregan Stark refuses to send. I mean, it's everybody, right? He loses everybody. Um, let's ask Oberyn about speed versus might. Well, Oberyn was pretty stupid, wasn't he? Also, in your Song for Leo review, why was Robb still the boy he was in Game and Clash, and not the battle-hardened, bitter, angry young man in Swords? I mean, it's been a long, long time since my Song for Leo review. Um, was Robb my guest star? It's been a long fucking time. Oh my god. This is like pulling some randoms. I mean, I guess this is like the same sort of thing I pulled on George R. R. Martin when I asked him about it, but it's a little different in that these were award-winning stories. Song for the let's see here. Did I did choose Robb. Oh man. Shkian religion is a bit odd. Redhead, fire, loneliness, and I totally forgot that eternal I'd chosen Robb. Dreams to Robb. Let me see here. What do I say here? This is what I'm looking at right now. Hold on. So the Song for Leah. Back in the Thousand Worlds book club. Did I? Where's A Song for Leah was written in 19. Where do I have my guest star coming on? We are back for the Thousand Worlds book club, and we're talking about A Song for Leah. Oh, here we go. I am joined by the King in the North, Robb Stark.
Hello, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here.
A Song for Leah was written in 1973. I see. I think with that one, I chose. I was probably looking for voice, making ways to make voices different, and I just found the effect for whatever the helium thing, or I did change the speeds or something to make his voice higher, and that was the only reason. Is I was like, how can I make these voices different? Because I was trying to come up with different voices every week. Now it's coming back to me. And keep in mind that this video is from over 6 years ago. I was trying to come up with different voices every week. And so Sweet Robin was like faux British. Dario was French. Egret kind of had an Irish thing going on. I had Chad Summerchild with his voice. And so I was trying to do different things. And so I was trying to who would have like a high little voice like that. And I was like, I think I just decided it was going to be Robb. But man, I had not thought about that video in a long, long time. Oh, and a Game of Thrones In Game of Thrones, Joffrey says that Rhaenyra was eaten by his brother's dragon. Um, yeah, so I mean, if they want to be consistent with Game of Thrones, I guess they got to keep Sunfire alive. So that's a very good point. Very good point. Does anyone give Tolkien crap for not finishing the Silmarillion before he died? I think only I think I don't know. I mean, I know a lot of people love the Silmarillion. I don't really get it. Like, I don't get why people would think that's good. Like, it's just a very sterile history book, and I mean, not even a history book. It's more like mythology, at least in the beginning. Um, so, I mean, if the Silmarillion were his main work and the thing he's proud of, his magnum opus, people would give him shit, but like it wasn't like it was, it was this extra thing. A Song of Ice and Fire is definitely the magnum opus. Now, not everybody finishes their magnum opus. Obviously, Robert Jordan didn't finish his, and obviously Frank Herbert didn't finish his. Frank Herbert, I think it's a little different because Dune is such a self-contained story by itself. I think Robert Jordan, he at least passed it off to someone, but so yeah, people. I mean, I don't know. I have to remember if like people were really giving how much people were giving Robert Jordan crap, because Robert Jordan didn't necessarily have as many years go by. Like even when he died, I'm trying to think like when like in those last years, like how many years did he ever give? Let's see here. So in the end, so Knife of Dreams comes out in 2005. Robert Jordan passes away James Rigney passes away in 2007. So like it had been 2 years, since his last book. He was writing all the way to the end. I think that's a little bit of it. Like, had George R. R. Martin released A Dance with Dragons and then been hit by a bus, or I think there'd be a very different kind of attitude. Ooh, Stewart is Bittersteel, McKellen is Bloodraven. If they were younger. If they were younger. I want the showrunners to stop making stuff up and stick to Fire and Blood. There's certain things that I think there's there can be added stuff that like can make the story better. For instance, in season 1, like it's a huge plot hole in Fire and Blood that Vagar, the most important fucking dragon in the whole fucking goddamn world, is just fucking given, like Lena just ends up with it with no explanation, zero explanation, that the most powerful dragon in the world, one that can like conquer Westeros almost by itself, is suddenly the property of a 14-year-old girl. With no freaking explanation. Like why was it not? And keep in mind, in the source material, the dragon pit fits Vagar. So like everyone's like, what was Vagar doing? Why? complete, like, I would say, story shattering plot hole. And so when the show was like, oh, Vagar was too big for the dragon pit and he was just like a round Driftmark, and then Lena ends up with him, that kind of thing, like, no, that's a really good idea. That's much better, like when you're filling plot holes or something, or like Damon talking to Alice. Like, Alice was at Harrenhal when Damon was there, and the source material have no interaction. But they would not have any interaction. She's a pretty interesting character. Why wouldn't she be interacting with Damon? So, I think adding that kind of stuff is fine, when it enriches the story and when it fills plot holes. And there's plenty of plot holes. Um, and I don't mind like merging characters and having them around. Like, if Gawain Hightower is going to be a character later, I don't mind him being with Kristen Cole on his march. Like, that doesn't ruin anything. And then I'm trying to think of like little things, like in this episode, Jace talks to the Freys and is trying to clear a path for the Starks. Um, Completely made up stuff. I don't think it took away anything. It added more character to Jace, gave Jace something to do, gave a different new location. So I don't know if I don't necessarily like think things are a problem, if you make stuff up or change stuff. Of course, it's always just dependent on is what you did when you made a change. Was the change better? Like, that's essentially it, right? People like people like changes when changes are better. People don't like changes when changes are worse. That's the big complaint. So, um, um, I may be wrong. The whole "you're a woman, please shut the fuck up" is really getting tiring at this point. Well, I mean, that is kind of the point. I mean, this is the thing, is like, I understand that, like, for this story, we're sick of hearing it. For women, this is their whole fucking life, right? This is the whole fucking life. Of course, it's exhausting and repetitive. That's the thing, right? Like, that's the whole fucking point. But I get it. Um, uh, oh, there's no sex in Sanderson books. I guess that might be something. I mean, he's pretty straight edge, right? The universe balanced out Brandon Sanderson to balance out the cosmic scales against Orson Scott Card. Huh? I'm not sure. That's a fascinating thing. I'd like more detail on that. um, yeah, COVID was great for me because of telework, not going back to the office. Ooh, COVID was probably the biggest boon to my mental health in 15 years. Oh, I'm sorry. Um, are you sick of hearing the term review boom to be little popular opinion? Um, do you mean like review? Oh, do you mean review bomb? I have to. I have to. I've never heard it like review boom. Do you mean review bomb? To be a little popular. Um, I mean, I think that's, in a general sense, with regards to this, is that, like, the internet is becoming a very inaccurate place to determine humans' opinion on anything. You know, like, having a bunch of likes, something having a bunch of dislikes, something having a bunch of um. Hey, how's it going? You hey, you there, Carmine? Trying to get him in here. Mm-mm. Carmine. Carmine, you've muted yourself. You are muted.
No,
There we
your
are.
connection was very bad. It was fading every now and then. It kind of is.
Yes, yes. How's it going? Oh well. He seems to be not doing well. He keeps muting
It's
himself.
going. You're still a little laggy, by the way.
Was that? You're laggy? I mean, um I can close some things. Oh,
You're fine now.
okay.
So, what'd you
How
think of the
how you doing?
episode?
How you doing?
I'm all right.
Okay, you seem very sad, man. You seem very sad.
Just tired. Just
Even you
yeah.
were doing your reviews, your quick reviews. Yeah. Oh my god, yeah, this is like the saddest I've ever seen you. The most tired I've ever
You're
seen you.
you can see me. I didn't know you could see me.
I mean, see you in a sense, but yes, yeah. Um,
Argentina won the fucking Copa America. No, they did it last time. Someone else needed to claim it. Let me see. I forgot about the Copa America.
oh well, oh
For the
well.
Americans in the audience, it's Sukur. Jesus, 1-0. Colombia slipping. So how'd you like the episode?
I liked it. I liked it a lot. I thought it was very well directed. I thought it was very well acted. Um, I think there are some big plot holes, like huge plot holes, but
Like
um,
what?
like them getting back with Aegon's body like instantly. That they jetpacked.
Yeah, you know what? It'd be one thing if a maester went with them. You know, like they had like a field
Right.
doctor, field maester. That would be one thing. But I think they said in the last episode it took Cole like a month getting up there. Maybe a
Mm-hmm.
month of like battles and sieges and shit. Actually, no. Cole said that no. Simon Strong told Damon that those places surrendered almost immediately. So it took Cole about a month to get to Rook's Rest,
Yeah.
and in that time, with the carriage, should take a little bit more. You're right.
Yeah. Yeah.
You're right.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh well. Oh, I mean, he was still smoking. Like that's the thing, as if the battle happened, down the road. Um, no, it was a little silly, unless they strapped everybody to the dragon. But you think there's any more to Renly's peach? I've heard different people talk about Renly's peach being uh, like I don't know, loving life and things like that. Um, Renly's peach is Renly's peach speech. That's in Storm, right? Let me bring this up. Hold on a second. Uh, 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 uh. People don't want me to talk about Renly's peach. I see these random things. Okay. All right. He offers him the peach. And then let me see here. A man should never refuse to taste a peach, Renly said as he tossed the stone away. He may never get the chance. Life is short, Stannis. Remember what the Starks say. Winter is coming. He wiped his mouth. What am I doing with my he refuses my peach. He refuses my castle. He even shunned my wedding. Renly offered me a peach. Mocked me, defied me, threatened me, offered me a peach. I thought he was drawing his blade. Then he spoke about how sweet the peach was. Did the words have some hidden meaning? Only Renly could vex me so much with a piece of fruit. He brought me his doom. But I did love him, Davos. I know that now, I swear. I go to my grave thinking of my brother's peach. This is one of those situations where Stannis seems pretty fucking dense, right? Like the peach is like clearly a metaphor for living life, right? And like the riches and enjoyment of life. Like that's, and so he says a man should never refuse to taste a peach. Like a man should never like refuse like the enjoyment of life. Um, he refuses my peach, he refuses my castles. In this sense, it's just like, and it's like a gift to him. All the things like enjoy the gifts that we have. So for Stannis to be like, I don't understand what his peach was about. It wasn't that hard. Like, which is odd because everybody's like Stannis is a genius, and it's like you can't figure out the fucking peach, or even if the peach doesn't mean that, right? It's like you just go with that simple answer. Like that's the simple answer, that the peach represents the enjoyment of life, and that's what he must have meant. Like even if he didn't, that's the immediate thing you just assume. That like of what a peach is. So I think Stannis is just really, really dumb in that situation. I understand that it's a super famous speech and everybody's like, the peach. And it's like, wouldn't you? I mean, just assume that it means the finer things, the nice things in life, like enjoying a peach, like smelling the flowers. Like I think it's the same as smelling the flowers. Like, and like any person would naturally just come to that conclusion. So I just think Stannis is being super dense and dumb there. Apart from feudal succession, Doran is how is Doran egalitarian? I wouldn't say he's egalitarian, but he's more about, at least in his words, about caring for the children and the small folk. And Dornish law does have a few more like socialist aspects to the idea of like giving on how people are treated and making sure that lords can't like treat their vassals poorly and things like that. I don't know if Doran's egalitarian, but he's at least more charitable and thinking about the feelings of the small folk. I mean, you could say, you might say he's more paternalistic. Was meeting George R. R. Martin really that traumatic for Preston? I thought it went well. It went fine. It went fine. I mean, this is the thing, right? You obsess over like every little thing that didn't go right. It was a fine meeting. There was a lot of laughs. There were some interesting things talked about. It's just, there was just a slight of embarrassment of me like asking him about like A Song for Leah and him being like, I don't know, I don't remember what you're talking about. And, asking him about Plato's Republic and being like, I read it a long time ago and I don't remember anything about it. So, just curious, do you think George had some plan in mind when Septon Barth writes about Arya when she has snakes with faces in her body? I do. I mean, I do think that like George has figured out like in a specific sense like what weird genetic engineering kind of things were going on. I think it's I think it's pretty clear that like that George R. R. Martin is thinking that the genetic engineering happened with the Valyrians and dragons. The question is like, how did that genetic engineering happen? Did it happen via magic or did it happen with like some sort of technology? I think that's kind of the thing that's really, really the mystery. But I think, there's something going on like creepy wise with regards to, with Arya. I was playing around with the idea. The thought crossed me when I last read that passage, which was actually not long ago. I think I read that passage just a few weeks ago. And I was thinking about the Doom of Valyria and whether the Doom of Valyria was not actually like a faceless man hit or something like that, but like, oh my God, like a genetic engineering has gone haywire. Let's nuke the city to prevent the rest of the world from getting destroyed. That there was perhaps that aspect of it. Like, oh crap, some sort of virus has been released, and then Arya comes back with like this infection, and she almost infects the world with it or whatever. But luckily, she was in a bathtub or whatever, and they covered it with ice or whatever. Septon Barth covered with ice. So I do think George does have an idea on that specific thing, but anyway, almost to the end here. Batman shirt reference to ineffective vigilanteism. What this shirt is, this Batman shirt is it's Defender of Play. And what this is my wife used to volunteer at a place called the Playtime Project. And the Playtime Project is a nonprofit that that understands that like play, and this goes for adults as well as children, but play is a way that people deal with stress and relieve stress. And so when you're talking about like children actually do have a lot of anxiety, and children, even though we kind of think of childhood as being this carefree time, in truth, like children have a lot of anxiety, and play, especially with like understanding the world and not understanding the world, and that children have a lot of anxiety, and play lets kids relieve that anxiety as play lets adults relieve stress and anxiety. And that one of the problems with being an underprivileged kid is that you don't have toys or playtime or space in the house to play and all of these different things. And so underprivileged kids also end up having a lot more trauma from not even being able to play. So Playtime is a NGO that actually just offers space in cities for underprivileged kids to come in. And these are kids that have like housing insecurity and things like this. And it's a place for them to play for a little bit. And that's about it. Like they give a place for kids to play. The parents actually get, some time to relax, which they never get to. And, it's a pretty simple idea and pretty simple program, but it gives kids a place to play. And so my wife years ago used to volunteer at the Playtime Project, but that's what it's about. And so I just have this T-shirt, Defender of Play. That's about it. Okay, almost to the end here. And am I there? Then I can go to bed.
Go to bed already? You just got here.
Yeah, Dornish law is mentioned. How's it egalitarian? I don't think Dornish law is necessarily egalitarian. I think it's it's more socialistic, but I don't know if it's egalitarian. Like there's nothing requiring Dornish like people to be equal, or anything like that. I just think Dornish law has a few things in there. I mean, it's egalitarian and it's only egalitarian in the sense that men and women are treated equally in succession. I suppose that's a form of egalitarian. But yeah. Plan for the Patreon this month. I don't know. I don't know if there's anything. I mean, I know people are wanting me to get back to my going through a Game of Thrones, and I will. But yeah, sorry that when the show goes on, the show goes on, and then it's just like I'm very
What about the
dedicated to
fanfic?
that.
What's going on with this?
Fanfic's still going on, still going on. I should maybe. I mean, I don't know when I'll have time to record, but we should have the Jamie chapter by the end of the month.
Oh,
Um,
by the way, real quick, I
yeah,
watched your review.
which one?
Faceless Man Assassin Whale.
The faceless whale, man, faceless whale.
What the
Yeah,
fuck is that? Where the fuck did that come? That's so random.
because Vagar was like ninja dragon.
Yeah, I get that, but like a whale of all things, Jesus Christ.
Well, I had to pick like an animal that's as big as Vagar, and the blue whale is the only thing that like came to mind because the blue whale is the biggest organism to ever be, or not biggest organism, the biggest animal to ever be on the planet. And so what is he going to try to sneak in? He's trying to sneak in the blue whale into like how the ninja blue whale is the idea, right? So
That shit was funny as fuck, man. Holy fuck. I just, like, out of the blue, you come up with this random out of the blue. It's just because you watch the episode over and over again, and then, like, it just starts to hit you. Like, that made no sense. What the fuck did this come from?
yeah,
Like that?
yeah. The idea that like, oh my god, it's a faceless whale. Like,
By the way, I have to ask you, when are we getting back to the Acolyte? Because, fuck, man.
yeah. I mean, I'm. I think I'm one episode behind, and then I can get caught up pretty quick. How many
And
episodes are
then
going
you
to be in
got
the season?
8. So this upcoming one is the last one. And
Okay.
you also need to catch up on The Boys because do you have any interest in The Boys? I wouldn't even blame you if you didn't.
I have not watched any of the boys. I haven't heard anything about the boys, um,
Season
at all.
4?
Yeah, I mean, I haven't heard a thing. I haven't been spoiled on a thing. I haven't watched
We
it.
can. Oh, that's funny. You haven't been spoiled or anything. We can do something on it, like with Logan, but and you don't even have to if you don't want to. But I will say this one thing. Remember the one thing about The Boys you always tell me in regards to the comics? How the
Yeah.
comics like feels like it was written by like 12-year-old boys for other 12-year-old boys. How
Yes.
edgy and ridiculous it is. The show is somehow slowly becoming like the comics with how edgy and like gory and gross it's becoming. It's ridiculous.
Yeah. Yeah.
So.
I mean, you
mm,
kind of felt that when you were like, what was the point of the Ant-Man and the urethra kind of thing?
Oh, Preston, no. They a lot of people have probably forgotten about this, which it's a shame they have. Do you remember that politician that said that women's bodies have a way of shutting down sexual assault when it's happening?
Oh yeah, I do remember. I do remember that weird
He's
politician.
in there. He's in there. Firecracker is Marjorie Taylor Greene, and they make it very clear that it's Marjorie Taylor Greene because she literally talks about Jewish space lasers with an actual Jewish space laser. Like it's become so on the nose now that it's kind of like, okay, can we get to the plot, please? Can we like move this along? Let's move it along, move it along. Look, I like it when they make fun of right wingers just like anybody else, but it feels like that's the showrunner's main concern is being gross and insane and ridiculous, and then making fun of right wingers. And plot is like not even secondary; it's like way in the back.
Well, is this the last season? Are they going more?
They're going one more.
Okay, so they're just treading water.
Yeah, it really feels like that. Don't get me wrong. I still love like a lot of the boys because in the show they're still doing the one thing where they go and they find like a crazy soup with a unique quirky power and they beat the shit out of him or kill him. That's still funny, and they still do that. They still do those undercover missions. But fuck, man, it's
Yeah,
just
yeah,
so much filler, so much wasting time. It it's a good thing it's ending. It's a good
yeah.
thing.
Well, I mean, gonna be another year right before the last season, so
Couple of years, we'll see where they at.
yeah. So, all right. Well, thank you everybody for being with me, and I guess we'll see you guys next time. And I gotta start getting to work on episode 5, season. So I'll see you guys next time. Thank you, Carmine, for coming. Even though you're pretty sleepy this evening.
Oh, a little bit, just a tad.
All right, man. All right. Talk to you guys later. Bye.